YouTubers, welcome to another very special edition of Trends in the Housing Market. I am Mike Martins, the king of the housing market discussion, and I got quite a few things on my, quite a few chips on my shoulder on what's happening right now and in the housing sector, and none of it is making front page center news, which is really upsetting me. That a lot of things out there that are happening to the day-to-day worker isn't being reported on. Front page news shouldn't be China sends satellite to space. No. Front page news for me is man works 3 jobs and can't pay rent. That's front page news. That is news to talk about. Not China sends satellite to space. Merry Christmas. What about man works 3 jobs and can't pay rent? I don't know why we're living in this kind of and there's a lot of people here commenting already. Comments are on, guys. Welcome to another special edition of Trends in the Housing Market. It is I, Mike Martins. Today is September 21st, 2017, and I would like to thank everybody. I started today Trends in the Housing Market with a chip on my shoulder. I'm kind of teed off how the housing news is somewhat going underground. It's like not surfacing, or you find it somewhere 10 pages in. You know, you see a page of what kind of jeans blah, blah, blah was wearing to some award show. On the first 2 pages, you see something nothing to do with the daily consumer, the daily person. But then on the 5th or 6th or 10th page, you see a little bit about the a little bit of a price drop here. Oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But the news is going underground. And that's what I'm saying. If you guys go out with boots on the ground and make your own channel and get your voices heard, mention me, send me a link on one of my YouTube videos, send me a link, and I will mention you too. And we could start creating and connecting some sort of underground connection of the housing market, because it's not good. A lot of people don't like better dwelling. So I'm going to start off with better dwelling today. A lot of people dislike better dwelling because most of it is the truth, because they bring out graphs, they bring out statements, they bring out reports. They do their best to basically educate and inform the common person, the common human, or the common worker, or the working poor, or whatever you want to call it. Wow, lots of people commenting already. Wow, the show's off to a big start. And okay, so Canadian consumer credit accelerates the fastest since 2010. Guys, this is not good. People are spending and riding off the coattails of their equity. Your equity is not a lottery. You did not win the lottery. Equity does not mean I won the lottery. It means sweet F all, because you have to pay it back. It's tied into your mortgage. It's a second mortgage and a third mortgage is what it is. Despite record piles of debt, Canadians aren't shying away from borrowing. Numbers obtained from the Bank of Canada BOC show that consumer credit is starting to accelerate. According to the BOC, the debt pile is actually growing at the fastest rate since the Great Recession. Total consumer debt grew by $24.9 billion. Consumer debt, which is non-mortgage debt, so that's unsecured debt, okay, guys, by consumers, hit an all-time high and isn't showing any signs of slowing down. The total balance of consumer credit at the end of July 2017 stood at $590 billion, representing 28.4% of all debt. This is an increase of 4.4%. Do you understand? Do you know why unsecured debt is going high? There's a reason why the unsecured debt is actually going through the roof right now. Because people are actually using it to buy food. And when someone's standing in line and they're paying for their food on their credit card and they're telling you they collect points, That's a crock of crap. It's a lie. Oh, I'm collecting points. It's on my visa. I collect the points. No. You're collecting points. Fantastic. But a lot of people are scared to admit that they're buying food on credit. And if they're buying food on credit, what does that tell you? They can barely afford to live. They're living off expenses. Just over $24.9 billion more the same month last year. This is the fastest 12-month climb since December 2010. Remember, this debt total is additional to mortgages and reserves and mortgages. So these are the last 12 months. Let me zoom this out so you guys can actually see this a bit better. There it is right there. We'll zoom it out one more. There it is right there. So debt levels, percentage change is just right here. Wow. It is going. It is moving up. It is flying up. 3 month, first month trend was even faster. A buttload of media coverage and warnings from the international banks hasn't seemed to slow down Canadians from borrowing. In fact, they increased the rate at which they were doing it. Curious, since things like higher interest rates are technically support to cool the rate of borrowing, not pick up the multi-year high. Do you understand? People need to eat. Let's move on. Now, this is for Toronto. So, Toronto condo prices drop in 3 out of 4 neighborhoods, still up over 26%. The Toronto market extends its losing streak to the condo segment, where the benchmark price fell 75% of neighborhoods. So, every gain it made in the last year alone, you could wipe that right off because it's gone. C'est la vie. It's all gone. And it's becoming, and the people that are borrowing and riding off the coattails of their mortgages, how could you? Shame on you. The Toronto real estate is seeing the market cool, and the condo segment is no exception. The Toronto Real Estate Board, TREB, numbers show prices were down in August compared to the month before. However, these prices still remain pretty steep increases from last year. Now, the Toronto condo prices are up 52% higher. Remember, in the last 30 videos, for some reason, when they put in these taxes, the foreign buyer's tax, the vacant home tax, the this, that, condo prices go through the roof. The cheaper, more affordable sector of housing goes through the roof. Townhomes, condos, go nuts. The condo prices dropped but still remain high compared to last year. The benchmark price, aka the price of typical condo, dropped to $460,600, a 0.5 decline from the month before, though prices still remain a massive 26.09 higher. At the same time last year, the 416 condo benchmark declined to $478,000, a 0.68 decline from the month before. The benchmark still 27.3% higher from the time last year. So here is your graph, people. So that's TREB, there's the 416 and the 905. So this is the condo prices are on a huge decline. Look at that. It's like a triple roller coaster ride. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep going here. Only 25% of neighborhoods saw an increase from the month before. The largest gain was observed in the TREB E10 district around Rogue Park. There, the benchmark condo rose $377,000, up $12,400 from the month before. The condo benchmark in E10 is a mind-boggling, 52.9% higher from the same month last year. On the flip side, the biggest loser from the month is OC3, Oakwood and Vaughan neighborhood. The condo benchmark fell to $838,100, down $36,000 from the month before. So condo sales are down 28% now in Toronto. This is a big problem. The volume of sales across TREB down significantly. TREB recorded 1,996 sales, down 28% from the same month last year. Let's look at here, condos versus listings. Look at the listings go up, and look at the actual sales here go down. So basically, people are pulling them off the market because they're not selling. New condo listings are down 15%. Wow, so you can see the drop here. People are just pulling them off the market. Let's see what they say here. Condo prices are down, but they're still posting huge gains compared to the same time last year. Okay, it's the same time last year. Let's look at it on a month-to-month basis, because stop comparing it a year before, because a year before, obviously, everything went up double price. So some media outlets have reported that the condo market is slumping, but it's kind of hard to say 26% increase slump. Price growth is decelerating, however, so it's worth exercising a little extra caution. Yep, so lots of people, Byron White's commenting, another '08 is coming, bigger than before globally. So, the '08, is it coming? If it does come, if the '08 crash comes to Canada, because Canada and Australia and London didn't see the crash as much. The U.S., man, they used taxpayers' money to bail out those banks, and yeah, and that's what happened. You think I'm nuts? Think of what's actually going on behind the scenes. That's retarded. Anyways, I'm just, like, it's the people, the working poor is what's left holding. See, I ain't talking about the housing. I'm talking about the major crash. Oh, yeah. Buddy. Brian White, I know, buddy. I know. I'm with you on this one, man. I'm talking about a major collapse. We have a collapse in oil, in our oil industry, our soft lumber industry, and you're seeing major collapses happening in Venezuela, where people are eating zoo animals to feed themselves. It's out of control. You see a little bit of shaking in Colombia between the two factions in Colombia. You see kind of a little unsturdiness. You got problems right now after the elections in Angola, and it's one of the major oil suppliers, and they're having problems with their two factions there. I've been covering that on my Portuguese channel. You got major problems across Europe. You got countries like Spain wanting to break up. You got North Korea, that banana in North Korea, testing his missiles over Japan. I mean, yes, there's a huge cause for alarm, and yes, there's a lot. There's Nicolas Maduro is switching from the petrodollar to the Chinese yuan or whatever. They want to change their currency over, and you know what happened when countries change their currency from the petrodollar to, to what's going on. And yeah, the Chinese economy right now, they are having a huge runoff on wealth leaving the country. That's why they have to clamp down on all these people taking their money out of the country and parking it overseas. It's been a nightmare. We're living in a society where man works 3 jobs to pay rent. Can anyone just help me fathom this? Because I have no education and I can't even read. But what's bothering me is, why are we living, or why is this happening where man works 3 jobs to pay rent and can't live? I don't know. So, read the comments, guys. A lot of people commenting below in the comment section. I want to say thank you to all the people who are listening to me. Someone's rebroadcasting this into a podcast version. So, I thank you for that, whoever's been doing that, And let's get into this. I got to talk about Montreal luxury real estate market heating up. This is very important because a lot of people are thinking, well, people are still buying houses. Yeah, well, look, there's so many rich people. It's so much easier when you want to launder $10 million and you're going into a country where there's no restrictions on where you got the money from. Buy a house and then flip it. You take a loss, who cares? It's cheaper. It's cheaper flipping a real estate house, to buy a house and flip it, than it is to pay the mafia to launder your money. Because there's so little restriction. You go in, oh, how much is this house? It's $4 million, but I could sell it to you for $10 million. Oh, I'll buy it. I'll give you $10 million right now. And no restrictions, no questions asked. Here you go. Here's your house. Give me the $10 million. Put it back on the market a month later, or shadow flip it. Sell it to your neighbor, and he buys it. and then you just cleaned 10, 20 million dollars in the Canadian bank account, and that's what's been happening. So when you guys see luxury homes for sale, you know, luxury homes for sale, I mean, that's a fantastic way to clean money, and they're not layering money through businesses anymore. A lot of times, a lot of people had fronts to layer a business, to layer money through a business. And it was a normal thing to do. I mean, it was a normal thing for criminals to do. Now they're just jumping into the housing market because the restrictions are next to nothing, and politicians aren't putting any brakes on the market. And guess who pays for it? The working poor. So let's continue. Montreal luxury real estate market's heating up, but Toronto, Vancouver will warm again soon, Sobeys says. Sale of homes over $1 million fell by 27% in Toronto and 23% in Vancouver the first half of 2017. First half, people. Montreal is emerging as luxury real estate hotspot, while Vancouver and Toronto sales should pick up this fall after somewhat sluggish times, according to the new report. Somewhat sluggish times. I think them putting down a crackdown on the wealth leaving China. I don't blame the government of China. I mean, the government of China needs to they're having a runoff on their wealth. If people keep leaving, money keeps leaving the country, what's going to happen, right? So I don't blame the government of China for doing this. The government needs to put a clamp on what's going on here. Sobeys International Realty Canada's rosy outlook comes despite a slew of policy changes, including some of Ottawa and a couple of provincial governments designed to cool the country's housing markets. However, Canada's strong economic performance will boost the market in the coming months, says the real estate sales and marketing company. The psychological confidence that people had in the marketplace was shaken by all of the different factors that were put in there, said Brad Henderson, CEO of Sobeys International Realty Canada. A recent drop in sales in properties of more than $1 million in Toronto. In July and August, sales, condominiums, and houses over $1 million in Toronto fell 27% in comparison to the same months the year before, according to the report. Transactions of properties over $4 million in the city fell by nearly the same amount, 28%. Wow. I don't know if you guys remember, there was a guy that was selling a crack shack for $1 million, and they showed the 2 or 3 different castles you could buy for $1 million in France. One was like 400,000 and 3 and 200,000, like these mansions and stuff that you could buy for the $2 million crack shack. I think it was $2.8 million crack shack. They show you 3 castles you could buy in France for that much money. Transaction of properties over $4 million in the city fell by nearly the same amount, 28%. Part of that drop came as buyers and sellers Ontario grappled with a new 15% tax on foreign buyers and properties in the Greater Golden Horseshoe region, which include Toronto and several nearby areas, introduced by provincial government in late April. So this is a really good one here, really good art. It's really long. So let's see what they say here. Sotheby's also anticipates a brisk and active market for real estate in Toronto this fall and for Vancouver to regain momentum. Vancouver will regain momentum. Wow, that's wishful thinking. As a strong Canadian economy is expected to boost confidence and performance in the autumn months. In Calgary, the report says tentative optimism is set to gain ground as the city emerges from a recession. So I want to know what you guys think on this. They got really hopeful and wishful thinking. I think a lot of real estate agents are hoping that there's no bust. Toronto's condo boom persists even as house prices cool. So it's kind of strange how this is the BNN that's reporting this, and they're saying, so someone's saying here in the comments, the problem with shadow flipping is it can be traced back. The problem is, Brian, we've had, I don't know, incidences where someone shadow flipped the house with somebody, with their neighbor or friend, like 12 times, back and forth, 12 times. So yeah, it could be traced back, but who gets right? Who gets who pays for it, right? Like who actually goes to prison, who does time for it, right? Canada's condo boom continues to surprise, with groundbreaking in Toronto still going strong even as prices of detached in Canada's largest city slump. But recent hikes and rent controls are likely to cool condo prices by 2018. While many predict the brisk construction of high-rise homes in Toronto would cause a glut of eventual crash, the condo market has emerged as the stalwart survivor as a long-awaited board housing market correction grips the city. Developers and economists alike say condo prices up 21% in a year, according to the Toronto Real Estate Board, cannot keep rising at such pace, in a part because it was their relative affordability compared to the single-family homes that fueled the boom in the first place. Exactly. Remember what I said? The more expensive product gets more expensive, and then, boom, everyone jumps onto the cheaper product, hoping not to get bought out of the market or hoping to jump on the bandwagon. We've seen significant appreciation over the last 12 months, and it's not going to continue to grow as the aggressive rate. And Christopher Ween, president of the Great Gulf Residential and developer of Projects Canada of the United States. So this is a pretty long article. And it says, another factor is affordability. Yeah, you don't say, right? With detached homes having doubled in price to about $1 million, twice the price of average condo during the recent boom, Ritchie is confident that condos will sell even as detached homes sit unsold and prices fall. How do you picture a scale? Housing prices, condos. How do you balance? So they're taking the condo gains and what's going on with the condos, putting it into the whole mix and show, hey, it's still okay. We're correcting, but in reality, the condos are going through the roof and the housing's going through the ground, but they're putting it into one mix, so it looks like it's like this. But in reality, there's a huge. Once the housing detached market drops another 10 points, you're going to see huge problems in the market. Woo! Huge markets. Okay, let's head off to Seattle. So, if you've been following me for the last trends in the housing market the last couple of weeks, you'd understand what's happening in Seattle, guys. Yeah, so Brian is saying the same thing. The problem with our housing market is so many empty houses, so the market looks artificially like it has a low supply. Exactly, and we'll be talking about the 77,000 empty homes in California that are registered as empty, the 99,000 empty units in Toronto, 63,000 empty units in Vancouver. It's not good. Seattle is in the eye of the housing affordability storm. Oh, Seattle, Tacoma, all these places, King County, they're beyond. They're the highest. They're going up through the roof. Bill Blake speaks with a leading urbanist thinker, Richard Florida, author of the 2002 book, The Rise of the Creative Class, about his new book, The New Urban Crisis. While Florida's earlier book detailed the upscale of those he called the creative class, clustering in cities, his most recent book details the downsides. Chief among them is the rising cost of housing in America's most desirable creative cities. In those cities, the cost of housing is affordable only to the creative class themselves. The rest of the working population, those in the service industry, the people that take care of real business or manufacturing, the people that actually hold the economy together, struggling to keep with rising housing prices. So, like I said, man works, headline, 3 jobs to pay rent. Florida says this is happening in Seattle. Specifically, is surprising even to someone like him, supposedly in the know. Seattle was more affordable than the Bay Area by probably half, but it was just as expensive, if not more expensive, than the metropolitan level than metropolitan Boston, metropolitan Washington, D.C., and metropolitan New York City, Florida said. Seattle is really in the eyes of the storm of a new urban crisis of growing inequality, growing segmentation, and growing housing inaffordability. Also discussed in this interview, what Amazon should give to Seattle, a lot including investments, is affordable of housing and transit. What cities that aspire to Amazon's HQ2 should give to the company, not a dime, and whether or not Florida is sorry for his boosterism and creative clustering in cities. Now he has seen the downsides. Wow, look at this. There's another article. Will the owner of this $15 million Seattle mansion pay a luxury tax? Of course he's not going to pay the luxury tax. Let's move on. Someone, that Seattle one, that was sent to me by Jennifer Sanchez. Sent me that link, and she's saying I'm doing a good thing with some of these articles that I'm reading here. And this one here is from Jeff Hamilton, who's talking about, he sent me this link here. He says, condo residents, this is in Portland, Oregon. Condo residents discovered that home ownership is no guarantee against displacement in Portland's housing market. A Westlake village, the conflict among neighbors has become so intense, the board hired a security guard to police the association meetings. Holy Jesus Christ. Yeah, at least the association meetings are in English. Apparently, there's been problems in Vancouver where the association meetings have not been in English. And I don't know what happened with that, but... So this was from Portland. She came to Oregon more than a decade ago from Northern Carolina seeking more affordable... Northern California, seeking a more affordable place to live now as housing costs climb across the city. A renovation of her building poised to hike her monthly bills faster than a fixed income can keep pace. Ramirez, 58, fears she'll end up on the streets. Why would a 58-year-old woman end up on the streets? Why is this being allowed to happen? Well, everyone, I mean, she's someone's mom. She's someone's, where's the human soul? You know, is it really all about money in the end? Is there some sort of secret that I'm not in tune about, that the more money you take with you or the more money you make by the time you die, you get a better place in heaven or something? Is there something I'm missing? Is there some sort of agenda or some sort of a seminar I didn't attend? Okay, I mean, money betters a life, but what about when you worsen others' lives? You know, I can't, what happened to the human soul? What happened to your conscience? What happened to, I don't know, man. I'm not preaching. I don't know. I'm just telling you, it's gonna go on the streets now? Seriously? I'm just very scared, she says. I don't blame her. But this tale comes as a twist. Ramirez owns her home. The people threatening to drive her out aren't greedy landlords, but her own neighbors, who also own condos in the modest complex of Edge Portland's West Hills. In June, the Westlake Village Condominium Homeowners Association informed Ramirez, along with her fellow condo owners in the 200-unit complex in Cedar Mill neighborhood, it would soon begin repairing Ramirez to pay a lump sum of $34,000 or increase her $372 monthly association payments by $292 a month. Give me a break. For Ramirez, who sank her entire savings of $63,000 into buying the condo and lives on a monthly $1,200 Social Security disability check, that's not something she can afford. It's also not clear whether Ramirez could sell before she falls behind on her monthly payments, because the cost of the repairs is making it next to impossible to attract buyers sort of a catch-22. I'm afraid the board of directors and the association will take away my condominium and I'll be homeless, she says. Rents are very high. The housing cost in Portland, renters typically look with envy at the secure lives of people who can't afford a down payment on a condominium. So, disabled people, so at Westlake Village, there are 22 two-story buildings, share a pool, clubhouse, duck pond. The conflict among neighbors has become so intense that the board hired a security guard to police the association meetings on August 17. A security officer removed and handcuffed one homeowner of the police report shows. I had a mini nervous breakdown watching that happen, says condo owner Barbara Gerano, 65, for whom new payments would mean never being able to retire from their 2 part-time jobs. I don't know why this is happening. Read this, guys. It's really long. It's really long. Condo residents discovering homeownership is not a guarantee. And they own their places, too. Let's head out to California. 10 points to keep in mind about housing affordability in California. Many politicians and activists push simplistic solutions when it comes to California's housing woes. Some promote subsidies, others density. Some sell infill as a solution. Others blame everything on the state's Byzantine laws. Maybe I'm getting old, or maybe the election of 2016 just a reminder of me to beware of politicians appealing to the masses with buzzwords. We live in a complex world, and remedies for complex problems such as housing are complex. So basically, California believes that it has this 10-point system that could help the housing affordability. Subsidies, affordability, houses average around $357,000 per unit. Do the math, that's unsustainable for Sacramento, where the subsidized just Los Angeles needs for just 1 year. That would consume the entire state budget. So rather than bring housing where there are jobs, maybe they should try to foster more jobs where there is abundant housing. That's a very good point. That's a great point. Build work closer to housing. So this is 10 points here. You guys can read this. See, one factor skyrocketing home prices in the last decade has been the Federal Reserve. It has been creating trillions of dollars by government bonds to prop up the economy. That makes the value of the dollars and interest rates sink to the value of assets such as houses. Assets rise. The programs such as, if the money becomes devalued, everything goes up in price. It's some sort of form of inflation. And you don't want to know when things hit hyperinflation. Believe me, you don't want to know when what happens when things like that happen. So California, apparently they think they have a way to solve their housing crisis problem. Let's see what happens. Let's move on. So someone sent me this article because soaring California housing prices may be leading to an exodus. So, brain drain. I've been talking about the brain drain for so many years. A lot of doctors, surgeons, engineers, they can't afford to live anymore. And they have decent jobs and decent wages. Some of them have a 6-figure income and they still can't afford to live in some of these properties. And we're not talking about they're living in the Taj Mahal or they're living in Trump Palace. They're living in a modest 2-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they're living in Hollywood Hills. They're living in some cul-de-sac somewhere in some little town or outside the major cities. California is quickly becoming an expensive place to live, and more than half of the state's voters are considered moving, according to new statewide poll. So there's a lot of people moving out of California. I mean, it's in the thousands per day that are leaving. And A lot of them are the ones that could afford to move, and the ones that could afford to move and pick up and leave like that, believe me, it's the doctors, it's the engineers, it's the directors, the people in different industries, are designers. They're just leaving. A lot of them are gaining independence and starting their own businesses. You know what I'm saying? UC Berkeley's Institute of Government Studies conducted research on the housing affordability crisis in California, and their findings revealed that 48% of the state's registered voters described as an issue as extremely serious. Problem from that poll. At least 65% of San Francisco Bay Area residents agree that the severity of the housing crisis. It's an extremely serious problem, poll director Mike DiCamillo in an interview with the Sacramento Bee. People are being forced to consider moving because the rising cost of housing. That's pretty prevalent all over the state. So this is all by age, by region. There's a really good graph here. So Walking Journey, I don't know if he's still watching, but he left California. And he's got a channel here on YouTube. It's called Walking Journey with Anthony channel. And he left, packed up his car, took a chance, rolled the dice, went out, bought himself a house on 10 acres of land or 12 acres of land. Pretty much bought a house free and clear because it was dirt cheap where he was in Texas. And now, he's got his job, he's doing his thing, he's raising his family, and he's doing really well. And he was discussing today when he went on his live stream saying, I had to leave the city. The city is a lie. Living in the city, being part of a bigger grand scheme of things doesn't make you more either attractive or more opportunities. I don't think living in a big city gives you more opportunities. I think it's a bunch of baloney, you know what I'm saying? In the Bay Area, 51% of residents have considered relocating to a less expensive region compared to 56% statewide. Yeah. The poll asked voters their opinions on rent control and found that 65% of statewide voters support local laws for rent control. Only 26% believe that limiting rent increases would lead fewer rentals being built, making the problem worse. Support for local rental control is strong among voters in Los Angeles region, 68%, and the San Francisco Bay Area, 63%. So California has its woes, and it's not looking good for California right now. A lot of exodus of brain drain. Let's move on to London. Amid housing crisis, London mayor points blame at empty mansions. That's actually good, because you got these mansions that could house 12 to 16 families, and they're empty. I would say the government take some of these, if they're not being used, if they're empty, if they're abandoned, take them and convert them into social housing places, just for people to live, People that have work and work 3 jobs but can't pay rent. Is that fair? I'm not saying give it to anybody that walks in the door. Show us 3 pay stubs that you have 3 jobs and you can't afford to pay rent, we'll give you a place to live. Save up a bit of money, and then you can go out and get something to rent. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Let's keep going. In some London neighborhoods, as many as 7 in 10 addresses are second or third homes and sit empty for a part of the year. They're often referred to as the ghost mansions. Of Lights Out London, a Washington Post reports, and they particularly bother London Mayor. Khan campaigned on the issue of foreign ownership and has recently gone back to the topic. According to the Post, he asked Parliament this month to give local governments new authority to hike up taxes in upper value homes left unoccupied most of the time. But a number of experts are questioning whether Khan's plan will actually work. Khan ties the issue to the city's notorious housing crisis, but Susan Emmett, head of the Housing and Urban Regeneration at London Think Policy Exchange, told the paper that the so-called ghost mansions are a scapegoat. So I would be pretty choked if I lived in the city. Well, I lived in the city before where half the properties were empty, streets were empty, no kids outside playing. But London's having its woes too, and they're having a huge exodus of brain drain. Everyone, all the people that are high-paying taxpayers and stuff, people that pay their debts to society, people that work hard, they're all leaving London. Mass exodus of them are leaving London. And then London's being left with a bunch of empty places that nobody wants to rent, and people are leaving 1-2 hours out of the city because they find it is more affordable. Let's move on. We got to go to Perth. Perth is huge. So all my friends living down under in Australia, it's raining in Perth right now. Just kind of want to put that out there for anyone that cares. But Perth house prices now at September 2012 levels. Woo! I got to do that woo thing once in a while. Perth house prices now at September 2012 levels. They're dropping like rocks. Perth is in the heat of trouble. Woo! West Australia homes have missed out on a $1 trillion explosion in the value of the nation's brick and mortar. Over the past 2 years, according to the Bureau of Statistics, the value of Australia's homes have exploded almost 17%, or $1 trillion. The 9.9 million homes, apartments, units across Australia are worth $6.7 trillion. 2 years ago, there were almost 9.6 million dwellings worth combined $5.7 trillion. But that surge in value has bypassed Perth, with the Bureau reporting house prices down another 0.8% in the 3 months at the end of June. Perth housing prices have tumbled 8.5% in the past 2 years and now back where they stood of September 2012. Man, that was so long ago. I don't even know where I was in September 2012. By contrast, over the same period, Sydney house prices have soared by 75%, while Melbourne have climbed 51%. Property Council Executive Director Lino Icomella said that the state government had to do more to subsidize house prices in Perth by focusing on job creation. So there's Perth. Look at Darwin. Woo! Anyone living in the Darwin region, I want to go visit Darwin sometime. I don't know why, but I've been always attracted to see that place. Let me know if you live in that region. I'll come by and visit. And look at Sydney. Look at Melbourne. Brisbane is Adelaide's Canberra Hobart's okay too. But look at that. Percentage points. So that's what's happening right now, and I wanted to let you guys know what exactly is happening in Perth, because Perth is taking a huge tumble, and if Perth wants to pick itself up, it needs to fabricate, it needs to mine, it needs to export. Export is huge. I mean, carve rocks or carve wood or something and export it. Create, this piece is a ancient artifact, and I'm just being sarcastic here, but export anything. Make solar panels and export them. I mean, create jobs. I mean, they don't have to be government jobs. I'm saying, like, everyone pool some money together and say, hey guys, let's open a place and just make solar panels. Let's open a refrigeration place. Let's make air conditioners. Who here is unemployed air conditioner worker? I am. Okay, great. Come over here. How do you build an air conditioner? Okay, you need this pipe and you need this condenser. Okay, how can we make this cheap? You got to order this from this, and then we can build ourselves a unit. Great. How can we mass produce this? Do something like that. Anything. Make garden hoses. Anything. Export anything. You know what I'm saying? Keep the big corporations out of it, so this way your prices could be competitive. You know what I'm saying? And you could pay higher wages, and people could split the company's earnings instead of having one guy at the top making all the money. You know what I'm saying? Build a cooperative corporation where there's 50 people pooling in and everyone's working together and hire a lawyer. Who's going to contract? Okay, lawyer, find us contracts. find us people who want to buy this product. There's ways. Melbourne keeps pace with Sydney as housing prices lift 13.8% in year to June. Wow. I can't believe Australia's off the hook with pricing. Holy smoke. What's going to happen to the Australian proper? Holy max. Unless everyone there is making like $140 an hour. Or $200 an hour. I'm not being sarcastic about that. Like $200 an hour after tax. I think it could get you a home. I don't even know if that could get you a home. This is Dover Heights, by the way. In Sydney. Home prices across Australia's capital cities have continued to lift, a rising 10.2% in the year to June, thanks to a strong growth in Sydney and Melbourne. Melbourne tied with Sydney, historically the capital with the greatest growth in values, with home prices in both cities lifting 13.8% in the year to June 2017. Hobart had the third highest growth with prices rising 12.4%, followed by Canberra with 7.9%, Adelaide with 5%, Brisbane lifting 3%. Prices in Perth fell. Darwin and Perth fell 3.1 to 4.9% respectively. I just read that article to you guys. This is crazy what's happened. This is from the Australian newspaper called The Australian. Let's move on. Nuts. And what's happening in Toronto, it's a gong show there. I got people telling me, hey man, everything's good here, man. Like prices and things are selling normally. I got no homes for sale on my street. And then I got other people mentioning to me and emailing me, man, there's so many houses for sale on my street. It's crazy. What's going on? You know what I'm saying? And nothing's selling, and people need to put bigger down payments down if they want to buy anything, and it's out of control. Toronto, I think, is spiraling out of control. I think you're going to see what should have happened in Vancouver 5 years ago happen in Toronto now. A lot rides on how Sydneyers react when the housing boom ends. So what's going to happen when the boom ends in Sydney? Oh, you're going to have so many people owing money. Eesh. Lines of credit, unsecured debt, credit cards. Sydney's traditional spring property trading season is well underway, but there are signs of the city's 5-year housing boom losing steam. Last weekend's auction clearance rate dipped 67% according to preliminary domain group data, the lowest since December 2015. So no one's auctioning as much anymore. Not a lot of people showing up to auctions. Another sign of the market is coming off the boil. The number of houses being sold prior to auction is on the rise as vendors lose confidence that auctions will deliver a higher price. Tougher lender rules and also appear to have dampened the sentiment of housing investors. So if you start seeing people not showing up to auctions anymore like they were, you know very well that things are not looking good and people are not going out. And let's head out to New Zealand. New Zealand's election is riding on the housing market. The New Zealand proper is out. They're out in the cold, and New Zealand is in a lot of trouble. The middle class or the working poor, whatever you want to call it, could barely make ends meet. Figures released under the Official Information Act shows that housing in New Zealand sold 30 properties in Marlborough since June 2012, the overall return of $5,908,000. Meanwhile, the government has been spending almost $100,000 a month in Marlborough, putting homeless families and individuals up in motels, some for months at a time on emergency grants. While National have promised extra funding for low-cost housing in the big cities, there hasn't been a lot of talk on how to solve the housing crisis in the regions. What is the best way to tackle the problem in Marlborough? I'll tell you what the best way is. One, people need to come together and, like I said, and do something. Create jobs. I'm not kidding. Maybe opening a small tech thing and educating people on how to code and do data. And people, let's say, people that know data entry or knowing how to do coding and stuff could maybe start having classes out of their house, non-sanctioned, and start teaching other people how to do coding in the tech sector and other stuff, like an idea, right? And then people together just open their own corp, because you don't need a license or you need a thing to open a software development company. You just do your own thing, right? Things like that, educating people in the community that are unemployed to teach them how to do some of this stuff, some of the legwork that takes a lot of tedious legwork. It's out of control, man. It's something has to take, some sort of grip has to be taken into New Zealand. Something has to come to grips to fix this problem, because this is out of control. New Zealand is beyond anything I can't even begin to fathom the problems they're having with the meth houses that have to be tested for meth use, because the amount of meth use in the house is just beyond anyone's it's, you can't imagine these things, you know what I'm saying? And it says here, these are the different parties. You got the Democrats, the Conservative Party, and the Greens, and the National Party. And you have the Labour Party. But who in reality is going in for the people? The Labour Party represents, a workers' party represents the middle class and the working poor. And how does one, no one guarantees that anymore. People are getting elected off buzz. People are getting elected off saying the right key words to get people interested. And I think it's so this is what Janet Walker from the Labour Party is saying. The national government has had 9 years to fix this and have deliberately continued on the path of selling off state housing assets without any consideration of the harm done by many individuals, the working poor being sold out, and people having kids nowadays and in the back of their mind saying, my kid can never afford to live a normal life. Housing should be something, it shouldn't be a right, but housing, if you work 3 jobs, you should be able to live in a friggin' house. I mean, do you agree with that at least? Like, you know what I'm saying? When people comment, oh, poor boy, it's about me. Oh, poor boy, can't afford a house in Vancouver, so needs to move out. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what the hell's happening, and I don't know why this is happening. Who do you put faith in anymore? I think a libertarian party where creating a government for the people where I think people pay for what they use. So if you don't drive, you don't pay for the streets. So they would pay tolls. So the drivers would pay for the streets. So people aren't taxed to death. You know what I'm saying? Like some sort of hospital program or something where the taxation, because every politician's way of fixing a problem. Okay, Lucas just commented, if you work a job full time, not minimum wage, you should at least be able to afford a condo. Dude, there's people working 3 jobs and they can't even buy food. And this is I don't know why this is happening. This is not making the front page news. Like at the beginning of the program, I said people are talking about, oh, China sends satellite to space. That's not news to me. I don't care. Front page should be, man works 3 jobs, can't afford rent. That's news. That's affecting us. I have kids now. My daughter's 1 and my son's 3. How do I feel? I mean, I feel like it's going to be tough for them. It's going to be really hard for them. I don't want it to be hard for them. I don't want them to live the easy life and coast through life and get everything handled. No. I'm talking about they work for what they do. They do good at what they do. They become good role models to their kids when they have kids one day or something. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm asking. You know, I'm not asking my kids to take water and turn it into wine. You know, but the government had 9 years to fix this housing crisis. Yo, aren't these people tired of tossing salad here? Like, I mean, could somebody, you know, maybe are we just connecting the wrong dots and we're not figuring out what the heck is going on? I don't know, guys. I don't know what's going on, to be honest with you. Somebody wants me to talk about the decentralized economic trend. The economy, man, we're backing our economy with the wrong things. They're backing our economy with housing, student loans, unsecured debt, and mortgages. You can't build an economy on the backbone of debt. It doesn't work. Look what happened in 2008 in the US, 2007, 2008. That's a very clear and proper way of showing what happens when you build an economy off debt. Anyways, guys, I don't know. I'll do another discussion, maybe going into different parts of the economy that maybe we should look at. You know, I just can't believe, you know, that one article I read about that 56-year-old lady might have to be homeless. And why? Because these people want to fix their condos to make them look better? You know, and nobody cares about her? I care about her. I don't know, guys. Let me know what you guys think. So everybody okay, that is not what decentralized economy is. Yeah, I'll look into it, bud. I'll look into it. I haven't. You're eco-fused. Econo-fused, bro. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm falling asleep here. I'm going to go watch Season 3, Episode 9 of Gotham. The Batman show. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's really good. It's the origins of Batman. Oh yeah, basically it's the decentralized and less reliance on central banks. The thing is, in Canada, the banks are really tied in with the government of Canada, so they're in as one. And to me, less reliance on banks is amazing. I mean, people pooling to lend, or what do you call that lending thing where people go on and lend, GoFundMe and stuff, or there's other ones where they lend people and they pay back their loan so they could get a business off the ground. You know, anyways, we'll talk about central banks in the next show. We'll talk about what's happening with getting off the banking system. How's about that? We'll do a show about getting off the banking system and talking about digital currencies and other ways that we could bypass this what's happening and Bitcoin and all that other stuff. And yes, and creating co-op businesses, like I said earlier in the show, where people get together and open a refrigeration company. Get a few people that got laid off in the fridge world, get them together, get someone that knows how to import, get someone who knows how to make contracts, start talking to each other and networking. With all this networking going on with Twitter and Facebook, people should be, you know, find a way to build off each other's networking to eventually gain better wealth and a better future. But we're not. We're just on Facebook talking about the pants I bought. Look at the shoes I'm wearing. Look at her. Isn't she I'm not going to say it, but that's what is happening. And we need to get off the control matrix, like Mr. Robot's saying. And Mr. Robot is a very, very good person that that comments on here too. So there's Lucas. And yeah, and like I said, libertarian government, rely on less government, be more libertarian, where things pay for what people pay for what they use more, as opposed to making the average guy pay for everything across the board. Anyways, FU says hi, says I do exist, Mike. Say hello to me. So he's always on here making sure. He's my moderator. So if anyone gets out of line and starts making fun of me, he'll come in and jump in and make sure people are in line. Anyways, guys, this is Trends in the Housing Market for September 21st, 2017. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think. I don't know, man. I don't know why this is happening. I'm just kind of dumbfounded about that article about the 56-year-old lady being evicted because she can't afford the repairs on her condo and she owns it. Comments below, much appreciated. Thanks for watching, and send me links, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram and other platforms. Thanks for watching, guys.